haven't been to this moment in a long time. Then I get a call from Chris. And Chris goes, "Hey man, I'm downstairs. Where are you?" "Hey man, are you sitting down?" He goes, "Yeah." And I go, "Eddie passed away this morning." And all you hear is, from a guy with no emotion whatsoever, you hear a wail. Just this wail from deep down, like a heartbreak. If you've ever heard one, this was a heartbreaking.
Then Vince called me, and he said, he goes, "Vicky," and he's just crying. I'm just like, I go, "Is it true that he's passed away?" And he said, "I'm sorry."
Chris went over there and kind of knelt down and kissed Eddie on the forehead. I went over there and, kind of like the same thing. And it was hard. I mean, here's your buddy that you've been with for 8-10 years, every day pretty much.
And there wasn't really any sign that obviously he had relapsed.
He didn't relapse. The verdict was heart disease at 38.
I remember the day that my sister called me hysterical. I couldn't even understand her. "You need to take some breaths and you need to tell me what's going on." She couldn't even get the words out. And when she told me, I burst into tears. And I thought about the kids and Vicky really, just a flash in my head. And then my next thought was, oh my God, Chris.
Eddie Guerrero has passed away.
The tribute the WWE did couldn't have been any better. Yeah, the whole stage was filled with everyone from backstage. But all I can remember was Chris. He was just crying.
I only know that I love you. I miss you.
One by one, they took different talent. They wanted to talk about Eddie's passing, Eddie's life. And Chris did it, which is probably really difficult to do. Chris had a hard time getting through it.
I want to thank you from my heart and tell you that I love you and I'll never forget you. And I will see each other again. I love you, Eddie.
I believe it was very hard for him, I even cried after for him.
Funerals are never good, but Eddie's funeral was very hard. When I saw Benoit, he came and gave me a hug, but it was like the most desperate, saddest, I'm hanging on for dear life hug that you could ever get. Sobbing, deep hitching sobs, and leaving literally a patch of wetness on the shoulder of my suit that soaked through to the shirt, went through the jacket and the shirt of tears.
I'd never seen Chris show emotion before. Of course it affected all of us, but I just think it affected Chris just like so much more. It affected Chris like a spouse or something.
When Eddie passed away, not only did it end Chris and Eddie's relationship, in a lot of ways it kind of ended mine with him too. I think he just became more and more of a hermit and didn't want to see people that he knew. I remember seeing him at Eddie's funeral, and the WWE guys had to leave right after the funeral to fly to Europe. You have Chris who has this horrible damage done to him, where he's crying, sobbing, the lowest point of his life, and as soon as the funeral's done, he goes on a plane and flies to Europe to wrestle. I didn't get that. I thought if there's ever a time to take some time off or to give someone some time off, I think Chris needed to be away from stuff for a while, but I think he just continued on because he didn't know what else to do. He didn't handle it well. Let me just say it like that.
I was in bed for the first week after we buried Eddie, and Nancy was the first one at the house, and she helped me with everything. She was the one who was making sure that the kids were fed. And finally, she just walked in my room and she's like, "Enough." She goes, "Enough. get up and shower. Get up because you have 2 girls that still love you and they need you. And I didn't want to do anything. And she threw me in the shower. She got the girls dressed and she goes, we're going to lunch. She was my angel in so many ways.
She just immediately went into planning mode. I'm gonna help with this and I'm gonna do that. And I mean, that was her knee-jerk reaction to grief and heartache. But Chris locked down.
And Nancy stayed with me for a month after Eddie passed away. And Chris would come in when they were off. And I would find Chris on Eddie's side of his bed. And Chris would just be laying there crying, holding Eddie's pillow. Eddie had a beautiful gym upstairs. And I would go upstairs and the girls would come down and they would say, Mom, Chris is crying again. And I would go to the gym and Chris would just be sitting on the bench just crying. He goes, I'm lost without Eddie being here. To see him just crying in my arms, it was very emotional. Here's this big, strong man who is tough and quiet and strong. He broke my heart. But then you see Chris, around the other wrestlers or in a meeting, and he had his face on. So professional, like you wouldn't even think that anything was bothering him. But Chris was getting more and more distant, where he was not being seen as much backstage, where I couldn't find him. Like Nancy would call me and be like, how's Chris doing today? And I said, well, I haven't seen him.
She talked to me about it several times. She was like, there's something going on, and I don't know what it is. You gotta tell me if you notice something. And I was like, yeah, there's something up. He just seemed different. He was talking more about other wrestlers that had had children kidnapped and fans that went sideways and were violent. He used to take different cars and different ways to the gym that we had been going to for years. It was super random. He just didn't want to be places and be seen. There was a level of paranoia we had never, ever seen before.
Nancy started getting really worried. She's like, I'm really worried for Chris. This is really affecting him in so many ways. He was just sad all the time and depressed. He was impatient. There was a lot of fighting going on for reasons that she didn't understand why he would be upset. And she would just be like, life is just really hard right now. Like Chris is just irritable and he doesn't want to talk to me. He's mad all the time. He was just mad at life in general.
There were a few months where he completely closed off, not really even talking to Nancy, not really talking to anyone. So we got Chris a journal so that he could write to Eddie. I think that after we got him that journal is when he started opening up a little bit more, because writing to him, he started feeling like maybe Eddie was with him in spirit or in heart by just being able to talk to him every day.
Was there any point when Nancy wanted Chris to maybe step away from wrestling at all?
That last year, she didn't think that it was healthy physically or mentally for him to be on the road and doing so much work in the same places that he and his best friend used to be and do things together.
I remember talking to him and he's like, every building I go to, all I can do is think of Eddie. Okay, we're in Kansas City. Last time I was here, Eddie was here. And now we're in New Mexico. Last time I was here, Eddie was here. And I think all of those things were kind of signs that something really serious was going on with him.
He was so grief-stricken on a monumental level that she thought that staying in the company and staying in the business was going to eventually harm his well-being.
It's Saturday night. I'm going to go into Laredo, Texas. We're doing the Texas Loop. I get to Laredo, and Chris, myself, and Scott Armstrong are going to ride together. And then later, I get a call from Chris, and he goes, oh, man, I'm not going to make it. I go, what's wrong? He goes, Daniel and Nancy have food poisoning, and I'm just trying to take care of them. And I'm like, oh, man, are you good? You all right? And he's like, yeah, I'm okay. I said, well, tomorrow we're in Houston for the pay-per-view. So he goes, okay, great. I said, okay, man. And he goes, Chavo. I go, yeah? And he goes, I love you. And I'm like, okay, brother, I love you too, man. That was weird. And I go, are you okay? He's like, yeah, I'm okay, man. I'm just really tired. And I said, okay, man. Okay, well, you can call me if you need to get any problem. Okay, well, I will. So then, that's it. About 5:30 in the morning, I get a text, and it was from Chris's phone, and it said, the dogs are in the enclosed pool area, and the back door is open. So I'm just half asleep, and I see this text, and I'm like, the heck is that? All of a sudden, 30 seconds later, I get another text from Nancy's phone, and it says the exact same thing. I was like, what? That's weird. I get another text right afterwards. It tells me his physical address. What is that? So I disregarded it, thinking I'm picking Chris up in 3 hours at the airport. So then, I meet Scott downstairs. We go get breakfast, and I talk to him. I go, hey, man, did you get a weird text from Chris? And he goes, yeah, I did. I said, what did it say? And he said the exact same thing. We drive to Corpus Christi for the next show. Still no word from Chris. So the head of talent relations, Johnny Ace, asked me, hey, Chava, have you heard from Chris? And I say, no. I said, but look, Johnny, and I bring out my phone and I show him. These are the texts that I got from Chris yesterday. And Johnny, in his raspy voice, is like, Chavo, why didn't you show us these yesterday? And I'm like, look, man, we were covering for Chris. We didn't know where he was. You didn't know where he was.
The office starting to get concerned because it was getting to be like 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So Vince McMahon has sent a wellness check to his house.
My name is Dennis Fagan. I run the security for World Wrestling, and one of our wrestlers that lives down there is missing. We need a welfare check done.
And what's his name?
Chris Benoit. It's spelled Benoit.
Okay, and he's a wrestler?
So Vince McMahon calls a meeting at the ring.
Dean Malenko's sitting next to me. I just had this really bad feeling. Dean's like, there's something wrong. Something is not right.
That's when Vince McMahon stands up in the ring and says, we've just got word that Chris Benoit, Nancy, and Daniel have all passed away. And the gasps, of course, around the ring.
I remember Vicky, she just let out this hurling scream.
I freaked out and I started crying, and Dean kind of stood up and he grabbed my hand and he took me off to the back.
So then Vince is backstage and I walk up to Vince and I said, what happened? What happened? And I'm a little frantic. And he says, they're gone. I said, what do you mean they're gone? And he hugs me super tight. And my head's on his shoulder, like crying to Vince, like, no, like, what happened? I don't understand. Nobody understood because no one knew the details yet.
I didn't know what was going on, but I'd heard enough to know that something's not right. If you would have lined up 100 people against the wall and said, name one that's gonna kill his family, how can this be? Like, how could he have done this? He fooled us all.
I went from just being a regular welfare check. Okay, we got something more serious here.
And I came out of the theater and I turned my phone on and I had like 22 missed calls from my parents.
The cop told me that they all passed away over the weekend.
You didn't want to believe it. Can't believe it. Can't be true. But it was.
The act of what he did is unthinkable, unforgivable.